Lady, you must have lost your damn mind, I thought in the hardware store. I was near a white woman with her black son of about 10. She just convinced him that if he doesn't have a cart or a basket, he should put the item he wants to buy in his backpack until checkout, like she does. Why in God's name would you tell that boy to put an unpaid store item into his backpack? I thought. If he doesn't forget it, he's still likely to get the stink eye. And if he does forget, who is going to believe him? Lady, you must have lost your damn mind. Now, this kind of scenario was nothing new for me. I'm a 45-year-old, half-white, half-black American who's identified black and lived most of his life in the white town of Boulder. I've been called a nigger dozens of times and heard countless crazy things, so I felt obliged to warn this mother and her son. I wouldn't do that, the peacemaker in me said. Ought to say, just to avoid any kind of misunderstanding, I always put the things I haven't paid for in a cart or a basket. If I don't have a cart or a basket, I carry the item and I go get one. Still, I stood there, frozen, as the mom and the boy tucked the items into their backpacks, thinking, lots of people don't take kindly to strangers giving them parental advice. Then they zipped their backpacks, walked down the aisle, turned the corner, and were gone. I worried for the boy's safety. I thought maybe he's lucky enough that he wouldn't have to heed such advice. Suddenly, the aisle started to spin. My temples started to hurt, and I felt queasy. I bent over, and I put my hands on my knees and thought I might pass out. I've passed out a few times before and remembered the last one that left a gash and stitches above my left eye. Man, I really don't want to wake up on the floor of this hardware store. It hit me so hard because I'd recently started my 4th year driving school buses. Driving was a great job, and I wouldn't trade anything for the time that it allowed for me to spend with my daughter. Still, aside from driving, I spent 3 years riding 6 to 8 hours a day on 90% of every weekend, fall, winter, spring, and summer break. My 4th year, I was supposed to have finished and be promoting a memoir that inspires people to talk about prejudice, especially racism. And not only was my memoir not done, in almost every practical way, I had just begun. With my hands still on my knees, I took a few deep breaths, and I became confident that I wasn't going to pass out or have to run for the bathroom. I decided to stand tall and walk it off, and then started towards the quieter part of the store. As I walked, I marveled about how often I'd witnessed such craziness. We live in the same world, but have very different experiences. Why don't people want to talk about race and racism? We're all so fucking ignorant. Breathe deep, I thought, relying on an old mantra. Through the nose, expand the diaphragm. Out through the mouth, collapse the diaphragm. In through the nose, relax your hips, shoulders, and jaw. Out through the mouth, sink your weight. Feel the earth with the bottom of your feet. What if I spoke up? I thought, wandering down my favorite aisle, sporting goods. She might have said anything from fuck off to the obligatory, aha, well, thank you, as she grabs her son's shoulders, ushers him down the aisle, and assures him I have no idea what I'm talking about. But what if I listened? What if they listened? I wondered. It's not about being paranoid, I'd explain. Most whites are good people doing their best to respect everyone, but some are threatened by boys and men with dark skin. They rarely give us the benefit of the doubt and encourage those who condemn us. Using a basket greatly limits the opportunities for racists. Sometimes it's not about race at all, I'd add. Some honest, hardworking, poor whites who suffer evil eyes and false judgments of rich whites would agree it's all bullshit, but some hoops are simply worth jumping through. Soon I recognized that I've been walking up and down aisles aimlessly with an empty basket for the last 5 minutes. Not wanting to look any more suspicious, I beelined for my items and put them in my basket. There would be no misunderstanding today. I had no time for such foolishness. I had to get home to write my story. I was only a few chapters in, but was relishing what would come 300 pages later in the climax, when the Boulder Valley School District fires and blackballs me. I'd spent decades calling Boulder home. working in the district and taking necessary steps to become an excellent teacher. 2 principals noted improvement in each of my 3 years, and colleagues, students, and parents regularly praised my skills. My students excelled in academics, from standardized tests to critical thinking. They were also the best in the school at identifying and reducing bullying, the #1 concern of Creekside parents. And decades of professional and academic growth made me ideal for the district's 5th grade curriculum and to continue my role as a highly respected leader and voice for minorities among colleagues, parents, and students. Despite all that and more, BVSD fired and blackballed its only black teacher at Creekside Elementary because I was not the right fit. I hustled through the parking lot, hopped in my car, buckled up, and drove off. A friend had recently given me feedback on a chapter detailing the summer before 6th grade, the first time someone called me a nigger. It felt like a breakthrough, and I had to get writing.